Welcome to the high school quarterly content training for quarter 4. If you would like to access this presentation, you can do so with the bit.ly or the QR code on the screen. To frame our work, we will look at the what and the how. What we believe is that we should focus on effective instruction, equitable access and outcomes, and continual improvement toward excellence. Of the 4 strategies that will guide us in our path toward student achievement, is the focus on instructional delivery and design. In Dallas ISD, we believe that all means all, meaning that all of our students should receive Tier 1 instruction. And at the high school level, the Tier 1 district-approved curricular resources are HMH and Imagine Learning. For this session, our learning objective is to learn how to effectively plan instruction for quarter 4. And in doing so, we're going to take a look at the big ideas in upcoming units. We're going to explore how to practice for priority TEKS and college readiness in upcoming lessons, and identify resources for use for classroom instruction. So first up is taking a look at the big ideas in the upcoming units. So in quarter 4, students are going to continue to read the text from Unit 5, and then they're going to read all of the text from Unit 6. To get the big ideas of what will be covered during this unit, or during these units for these courses, the hanging hashtag activity is a great strategy to use. To do this activity, take a look at the images and the essential questions of the 2 units for your grade level and create a hashtag that you feel best captures what will be covered in quarter 4. Now, keep in mind, students are already familiar with text from Unit 5, so you may want to just focus primarily on Unit 6. Feel free to share your responses on the Jamboard that is linked on the slide in the phrase hanging hashtags. Also, feel free to make a copy of this for classroom use. You will see that each course has a page. Now, let's take a closer look at what the students will be doing in these courses for quarter 4, particularly English 1 and 2 at this time. So in English 1, during the first week of instruction after spring break, the students will be reading a short story, during which students will be analyzing theme and creating theme statements based on the events and the characterization within the story. So during instruction, there are questions that teachers can ask students and a graphic organizer for students to complete. Both of these are examples of scaffolding. Now, many of you may have attended the scaffolding session offered by PDL in February. So to continue to build on that learning that took place during that session, I'm going to be calling out some of the scaffolds that are available in the structured decks for the high school courses. So this work on theme or in analyzing theme will lead up to the students responding to the ECR prompt, explain how the author develops the theme of the story through the mother's actions. The same type of instruction will be taking place in English 2, the first week back after spring break. Here, though, the students are going to be reading a poem that contains a lot of symbolism. So to help students be able to analyze the symbolism of the poem and to get the full meaning of it, they will complete this graphic organizer, also an example of a scaffold, which will then lead to them responding to the extended constructive response, explain how the author uses symbolism to develop the theme of transformation within the poem. Now, these 2 scaffolds, the 4 T's chart and the ECR outline, have been in the structured decks since quarter 1. So students should be familiar with using these resources. So of course, with the 4 T's chart, they're planning and mapping out the ideas within or for the essay by way of identifying the purpose for their writing, the task, identifying text evidence that is relevant to the task, creating thoughts or commentary or that can be used as commentary based on the text evidence that will eventually lead to them creating a thesis statement. And they can transfer that information, or a lot of that information that they brainstormed in the 4T's chart, onto the ECR outline. The ECR outline has every part of the essay and sentence stems for the parts of the essay. There is also grammar practice and writing SER practice embedded in the revising and editing process of the ECR within the structured decks. In English 2, for this instructional week, the focus is gerunds. Activities during that week culminate with a writing SER prompt instructing students to revise a sentence in the passage using a gerund. Now, it is important to note that the writing SER prompts on the STAR test will not actually tell the students how to correct or revise the sentences as this one does. So this too is an example of scaffolding. Also within quarter 4, the students will be reading the Odyssey in English 1. They will be reading all of Macbeth in English 2. And they will also be writing research papers in both courses. Now, please feel free to pause the video and take a look at the instructional weeks for English 1 and English 2. They are linked on the slide for your convenience. Now, let's take a look at what's going on in English 3 and English 4. And looking at the ACP blueprints that are linked on the page, please feel free to pause the video and consider this question. Based on the TEKS and their frequency on the ACP blueprint, which types of text do you anticipate students will be reading in quarter 4? As in English 1 and English 2, there are also scaffolds available in English 3 and in English 4. So for English 3, the students can use this graphic organizer, guiding them in making predictions about the text that they are reading for that particular week. And in English 4, the students have the opportunity to watch and listen to their teacher do a think aloud. So during the I do portion of this lesson, teachers will model or can model how to analyze and evaluate characterization and use of point of view with the think aloud by answering the questions that are on the slide as the students listen. So this is important because it allows the students to hear the teacher's thought process when in answering the questions, and it can help them when they are asked to do the same. So as is the case, or as was the case in quarter 3, the students will divide their time between receiving instruction from the structured decks and also completing lesson modules in Edgenuity. So 50% of the instructional time for HMH and 50% of instructional time devoted to working individually and at their own pace in Edgenuity. I want to note here that what the students will be doing in the structured decks will be supported. No, what the students will be doing in Edgenuity is supporting what the students are doing in the structured decks. For instance, in English 3, in the instructional week, March 18th through the 25th, students are learning how to analyze the relationships between characterization, point of view, and theme. They will basically be doing the same thing in Edgenuity. So they would complete the Edgenuity modules first. So they'll have a frame of reference for when they receive instruction from the structured decks for the second half of the course. In English 4, the students are reading a poem or reading poetry that contains extended metaphor. So you'll see here in Edgenuity, they're basically doing the same thing. Now, there is one main difference that I want to point out. So in Edgenuity, they're going to be reading a poem by Maya Angelou. So I know that Maya Angelou did not write, was not a British author. However, what we're focusing on here is the building of and the developing of the skill, not necessarily historical accuracy or maintaining the historical time periods of the literature that the students are reading. The scope and sequence for the Edgenuity modules can be found on the weekly IPCs, and the weekly IPCs are housed in Curriculum Central or on the Curriculum Central page. And this is also linked here for your convenience if you would like to click it, if you have accessed the presentation. Also, if you need assistance in getting started in Edgenuity, you need help in setting up your courses or setting up your classes, and then adding the coursework of the Q4 modules to your classes, this document that is also linked on the slide can help you do that as well. If you need further assistance, please contact Stacy Cleveland, our Edgenuity rep, who is more than capable and more than willing to help you walk through this process. And her information is linked on the slide as well. So for English 3, the students are going to be reading The Crucible for most of Q4. Some highlights for English 4, it's the short story, A Cup of Tea by Catherine Mansfield, and the personal essay, Shooting an Elephant by George Orwell. And of course, both courses, the students are expected to work on the Edgenuity modules to help prepare for TSIA. Now, again, please feel free to take a moment to pause the video to take a closer look at the week of March 18th through the 25th for English 3 and or English 4. So now we're going to identify some resources that you can use for classroom instruction. So it is important to note that while Edgenuity is meant to help build skill and capacity for students taking the TSIA, it is not direct test prep. So what is linked here on this slide are TSIA resources that can be used to help students get familiar with the test format, test questions, and what is expected of them on the actual test. On every Tuesday and Thursday, our department offers office hours for every grade band. If you would like to attend office hours for high school, please open this document that is linked on the slide here and click the link, and that will lead you right to the Zoom link of the person doing the office hour for high school. And that would be me. You do not have to stay for the entire hour. If you have a question or concern, you can just express it there, ask it there, hopefully get the answer that you need and move on. We also have linked this presentation of a session that we did on February 19th, genre-based reading strategies. I know we spent a lot of time this year talking about writing, but this particular session focuses on how to approach reading. And also within Cornerstone are these 2 PLC packages on how to approach the ECR. So in closing, thank you so much for your time and attention. If you would like to receive credit for having watched this video, please complete this attendance form. And if you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out to any of us. My name is LaShonda Watson. I am one of the high school coordinators in our department. My colleague, Rich Miller, is the other high school coordinator. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you so much for your time.